Like you and I, a horse's physical condition changes day to day. The horse communicates that condition to you if you understand what he's saying. And you begin to understand with this free online webinar. Once you understand, you're going to win more and even more importantly, lose less. Join the free Racehorse Body Language webinar. Learn handicapping's missing link and win more and lose less. And you get instant access when you go to bodylanguagewebinar.com.
Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Matt Bernier, taking a look at the kickoff leg of the late pick 4 at Saratoga on Friday. It's race number 8. It's the $150,000 Yaddo Stakes. You can get involved with a DRF Bets account. Sign up at drf.com/bet. Get 10 times the sign-up bonus. Bet 20, get 200. Here the field of fillies and mares. They're New York breds going 1 mile and a 16th on the inner turf in the Yaddo Stakes. 2 horses figure to take the lion's share of the money, Matt, and deservedly so. Let's begin with Chad Brown's number 7, 55. This is a horse that's kept graded stakes company throughout her career. In her most recent start, she just looked good coming from off a slow pace to win over a yielding turf course. You know what you're going to get in the stretch. She sometimes loses focus and she swaps leads 2 or 3 times, but it's just her, and she's been pretty successful.
Yeah, she really has. I mean, it's hard to knock what she's done. You go through, you look at the 4 most recent starts, 2 victories, 2 runner-up finishes. You see some of the names that she's been running against. You see Uni in there. Obviously, she defeated Kidura most recently. And you brought it up. She's taken on graded stakes company, especially last year as a 3-year-old. You had the likes of Proctor's Ledge and New Money Honey before she went off form. She's just in many ways strictly the horse to beat in here. Look, you don't want to get in Chad Brown's way, it seems like. It's a bit of a conveyor belt. He's just going to go out there and win races. 55 makes a lot of sense. The question is, do you want to take what's likely to be odds on?
She is the established horse in this race, but the number 2 La Moneda might be a budding star for trainer Tom Morley. She has won her last 3 races, all in very visually impressive fashion. Last time out at Saratoga, she sat the pocket, but she sat in behind a pretty slow pace. She was checked a little bit entering the far turn down towards the rail, but once she got optimal clearance turning into the stretch, she inhaled those horses. I love her tactical speed. I love her inside post position. I think she works out a trip under Junior Alvarado.
Yeah, and you know what? The form of that race has already come back solid. Lady Joan, who's also going to run in this spot, she's a next out winner with an 89 buyer, so you don't have to worry about the form of that race. I guess the only thing that I would have a little bit of reservation about with this mare is you brought up the fact that she has that tactical ability and she's going to work out a good trip. I don't disagree with that, but she's had beautiful setups in all 3 of these most recent starts, and I think that's part of the reason. Look, she's very, very talented. There's no question about it, and she's a primetime contender. What happens if this situation doesn't present itself exactly, just rolling out the red carpet for her? If it doesn't work out like that and she has to overcome a little adversity, then what?
A horse returning off of a long layoff is the number 1, Over Negotiate. Heck, we haven't seen Over Negotiate in almost 8 months when she was overmatched in one division of the Tropical Park Oaks. I mean, the winner of that race, Dream a While, has come back to run 4 times in graded stakes company, has hit the board each and every time with buyers between 92 and 97. So she's getting class relief. And if you're worried about the layoff, check out this Todd Pletcher formulator fact. Past 5 years, older turf routers, layoffs of 6 months or greater, 24% winners, a $2.43 return on investment. Big price on Pletcher Velasquez. I think this horse will show some fresh speed from the rail.
I would imagine so. Like you say, being off for such a long time, probably figures she's going to be a little bit keyed up. I'm a little bit concerned, to be honest, about her form against better horses. It doesn't seem like it's really panned out thus far, but again, she's taking that first start, really going from her 3-year-old to 4-year-old campaign, and who knows, a forward move, she might be right there.
You mentioned Lady Joan when we were discussing La Moneda. No match for La Moneda in that race on July the 22nd. Went up close to that fairly moderate pace and just could not kick with that horse in the stretch. I wonder if Phil Serpy was onto something last time out, stretching her all the way out to 1 mile and 3/8 and letting her use that good early speed. She was able to win despite those color-coded red fractions from Timeform US. Lady Joan has some ability. She's real solid, but I think this is a race where you're probably going to need a buyer speed figure somewhere in the 90s, and it's something that Lady Joan hasn't achieved just yet. I can't wait to stretch her out again.
I was going to say, I mean, I think that's probably what her game's going to be at the end of the day. Stretch her out to those 11 furlong, 12 furlong kind of marathons. But But you brought it up with the presence of 55, with the presence of La Moneda. This is sort of de facto a grade 3 kind of field. And I don't think right at this point Lady Jones run fast enough to win a race like this.
Speaking of stretching out in distance, we'll throw up the Timeform U.S. pace projector. The number 9 Munchkin Money is stretching out from a 5.5 furlong turf race, a race that was probably used as a prep for this. It was her first start in over 8 months. She was outrun early. She came with a good solid run. She was good enough to buy her 89 sprinting 2 starts back. And I don't really think the distance is going to be an issue. I just wonder how good she is overall. She doesn't necessarily need the lead to win, and I wonder with Over Negotiate and Lady Joan in here, if she's actually going to be hustled really hard to get the front from the far outside post. It'll be really interesting to see if this pace projector turns out true.
Yeah, because I'm kind of with you. I don't know that I'm totally convinced that she's actually able to clear off to the front. There is other speed to the inside. I think drawing from the outside, you want to use that to your advantage. But more importantly, I agree with you 100%. I don't know how good she actually is. I know she earned that 89 sprinting at Aqueduct 2 starts back, but that was way back in December. I'm not convinced she's as good going long as she is going short. She's a pass for me.
Feeling Bossy, the number 3, was able to beat 55 2 starts back, and she did it off an extremely long layoff. She also did it when able to get just the easiest of early leads, a situation that might not pan out on Friday. In her most recent effort, she was in against open stakes horses and some pretty good ones at that. The 3rd finisher came back to run 3rd in a restricted stake with a 91 buyer. The 6th finisher, a horse that Feeling Bossy finished ahead of, came back to run 3rd in the Beverly D with a 99. This horse is legit. She's got tactical speed. She's got Jason Service.
Yeah, obviously have to look at her as a major threat in a spot like this. Find it interesting that she's either won her races or she's nowhere. She's 7 of 17 lifetime, never been in the money otherwise. But again, she brings pretty good form into this. Like you say, you brought up the reasons for that most recent field, the Perfect Sting. I think this is where she belongs. I think this distance is fine. Can't help but notice she's 0 for 2 at Saratoga, and I wonder if that bites her.
Here's the Service formulator fact. Past 2 years, older turf riders off a 45 to 60-day layoff, 37% winners, and a 273 ROI. The 6 is Tizelle, coming out of a live non-winners of 2X Open, non-winners of 2X optional claimer at Belmont. The winner of that race came back to score again with an 86. The 3rd place finisher came back to run 2nd with an 86 buyer, and she got that 90+ buyer fig 3 starts back at a mile. This is another mare that's got a little bit of tactical speed. I just want to know what happened 2 starts back. Did she just hate giving the ground?
Yeah, it's entirely possible because that's the only time that she's ever encountered that sort of thing. You also brought up in that N2X, the 6th place finisher was the next out winner with an 84, so plenty of form there. I think the important thing to note with this filly, or this mare, she's 5 years old, she's fired each and every time off of a layoff, and I think that's certainly something to factor in because she's likely to be a pretty big number, I'd imagine. I think people are going to look at it and say she's overmatched, she's facing better horses. Her best races have come off the bench, and she's run well at Saratoga in the past.
And she is the last horse to have beaten La Moneda on turf. The 4 is Courageous Dinah. This horse is going to be a big price, turning back, though, from a 1.25 miles. I think a 1.25 miles was just way too far for this horse. She is rock solid. She is yet another. This whole field seems to have a bit of tactical speed. I think she's slightly overmatched against stakes horses.
Yeah, from a speed figure standpoint right now, she's just not fast enough to run with these.
Let's take a look at our top selection for the Yaddo Stakes. It's a lot of weight, as you mentioned to me before we came on the air. It might be too much weight to sink this canoe. The 5 War Canoe coming out of the Diana, a race in which she really had no chance.
No, I mean, look, when you've got Sister Charlie and a Raving Beauty and Ultra Brat and horses of that nature in there, she's never going to have a chance. 2 starts back, I thought that was a pretty good effort, all things considered, when she was able to get up and get the job done. The race that I'm most interested in, actually there's 2 of them. If you go back to the June 9th race, that was at N2X, that New York bred race, and then you have the Mount Vernon prior to that. Both of those times, she was compromised by slow paces, and I think the more fancied horses in there were the ones that ended up getting the better trips, and I still think she ran very, very well. It's also important to note, look through, in Formulator, you can filter things out and go incrementally. The way that she kicks home in each one of these starts, she's got a serious late turn of foot, and I think that's going to be very, very important in this race on Friday. I think there's going to be pace. I think she's going to come with a run. 10-1 on the line, I'll take a shot with it.
I agree with you. I think with that stretch-out sprinter on the far outside, with Lady Joan, with the fresh Pletcher horse down towards the inside, and several other tactically minded horses, this pace has to be at least fair for War Canoe, who's going to be lingering near the back of the pack. I'm hoping she makes one run. I'm not rating her off the Diana, but I agree with you about a couple of her other efforts. 4 back, she earned that 90 buyer speed figure that we think is at least going to have to be there to win this race. Give me numbers. You like War Canoe on top?
Yep, 5, 7, 2, and 3. Have to acknowledge that 55 is strictly the horse to beat.
5, 7, 2, 8 for me. I'd probably have to go 2, 5, 7 to kick off the pick 4. Approximate post time for the Yaddo, 5:15 Eastern. You can play it with DRFBet. Sign up, get 10 times the bonus. DRF.com/bet. Bet 20, get 200. Enjoy the Yaddo. Best of luck.